Thank you for joining us for this very special event. I would like to invite Kaurna Elder Carl Winder-Telfer to welcome us to country. Carl is a proud Kaurna man from the Adelaide Plains region. He was born into a family of strong cultural heritage who are actively involved in politics and have always fought for social justice and human rights for Aboriginal people. An artist, an educator, community leader and cultural bearer, Carl is spiritually drawn to sharing the knowledge of Adelaide's first living culture. Thank you, Carl.
Nya Italy, mani ni kukawa nya lakumu yarta na, ni ko tikandi nya lo karo yarta, nya buki yani yarta, nya lo nyari yarta na malawera kana yako na, nya lo miana jini yarta na, jubro kana nya lo mara kala nya lo miana. I just did friends in my old language. Where you sit is on ancient country, and it's very important for us to recognise the first footprints, the first jinnahs, first people, the first voice from the first sunrise of the first day, because we've been here for a long time. And when I speak about country and I try to educate people more about what it means to be here, it's not about a welcome, because we're still waiting for peaceful settlement in our own country. And that's a message that came from my mother. And I guess that's where I drew that inspiration from. Because, you know, if you're going to be fearless, well, you've got to say what you've got to say, right? And if you're going to tell the truth, well, you're going to stand straight and you're going to stand strong. And people are going to listen to you then. And then you get the respect, then you get the inclusion, then you get all these other sort of things here when you come together. Because you can do it then, when you see the reflection of each other standing there and the truth you see in front of yourself. This is my old school here too, Christies Beach. Yeah, so played a few footy games against some of the other schools that are here. Yeah, went to Caroline too. Yeah, so, you know, we've got connections across this community, especially down in the southern area. But I acknowledge everyone that's here and the special guests that are here. They know who they are. Because, you know, the young ones are sitting there behind. And this is opportunity now, I guess, for you fellas to think about some of these things now, about what you are, who you are, and where you're going. Yeah, especially from the First Peoples place, because we're still sitting under a different pedagogy. Some of the doors are open, but we're all still carrying some of the trauma and the pain from the outcome of last year. And we need to acknowledge and be honest about it. That's where we need to sit now. Humanity, spirit of. That's what I do, is a greeting to spirit of place. Because we're still trying to find peace. And in the world now, we see what's going on. How do we find that in each other, in our own communities? What does unity look like for us? How do we educate each other to take it to the next step? Because my cultural obligation, first one is the country, second one is the kin. That's the law, my law. So I'm carrying story from 7 generations behind, thinking of the 7 generations that are coming ahead. My obligation is to them. The stories I hold, the wisdom you hold, the sit-down time on country, it's what we need to do together. So this is a great opportunity for you all. This is the first step. And I thank all the people that have provided this opportunity, because now there are First Nations young people, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, and other cultures that are here now. It gives us an opportunity to really come together, find that common ground, and maybe in the next not too many years, there might be a call for another hand up And that's where we changed the rules from a handout to a hand up, especially for us. So I just wanted to say it's great for me to be here just to share a little bit of story and to acknowledge everybody that's here and the great work that everybody is doing. And I'm just happy to be back here at Christies Beach High School in the gym, where some things went down here, but I'm not going to say. But I got the memory here of this place here and the community here. So it's good to be back here, and just thank you for your time, for your listening. That's the first sign of respect our way. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl. And it is about connection to your school, connection to your family, and connection to the country. I was going to attempt to read that without the glasses. That's never going to work well. The Australia Day Council of South Australia, in partnership with the Department of Education, has passionately driven this initiative to bring together state and national Australians of the Year to engage students on topics of national and global importance. Unfortunately, due to a family bereavement, Tim Jarvis AM is unable to attend today's summit, and our thoughts are with Tim and his family. Not only will we hear from our 4 inspiring guest speakers, but we'll also have the opportunity to hear from our esteemed guests, the Honourable Blair Boyer MP and our patron, Her Excellency, the Honourable Frances Adamson AC. Our speakers today will be focusing on inclusion, human rights, environmental issues, climate change, mental health and student voice, topics that are important to young people today. Our aim is to inform and influence your future learning pathways, as well as enabling you to see the possibilities of what we as Australians can achieve when we're at our best. I would now like to invite the Honourable Blair Boyer, MP, Minister for Education, Training and Skills, to come up and say a few words. Thank you, Minister.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you all here this morning. Could I also acknowledge that we are gathered on Kaurna land, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and especially acknowledge Carl for his very beautiful welcome to country. Could I also, of course, acknowledge Her Excellency Frances Adamson, the Governor of South Australia, and Mr Bunton as well, my parliamentary colleague, the Minister for Health, and the local member for this area, Chris Picton, and Helen Connolly, who is our Commissioner for Children and Young People. Listen, it's great to be with you here this morning. It's always a bit nerve-wracking, I've got to say, as an MP talking to students. It's about the toughest audience you ever have to speak to. It's always hard to find the words that you want to, find in order to try to convey the message you want to convey and actually inspire you. But fortunately for me, you've got other people who will be able to do that today. And the reason I've been really happy and this government has been really pleased to support these summits is to make sure that you, as young people who are at a point in your lives and your education where you are, I would imagine now, making pretty crucial decisions or starting to think about the crucial decisions you have to make around what you want to do later in your lives, to actually be exposed to those people who will be here on stage this morning to talk to you about the amazing things that they've done. It's about 25 years since I finished high school. I'm sure to those of you here who are still in high school, that seems like a very, very long time ago, but I remember it very clearly. And I guess, remember a very strong sense that those incredible kind of feats that people achieved, and you're going to hear from people today who have achieved some incredible feats, were the kind of things that only really happened at other schools, to other people, or the kind of thing that you actually saw on TV. It was very hard to understand and accept that you are capable or were capable of doing those things yourself. So we have supported these summits to make sure that across the 5 summits we're going to hold, where lots of different high schools from the different schooling sectors in South Australia, the students will get an opportunity to actually hear directly from people who have done remarkable things. And As the Minister for Education in this state, what I really hope that you take away from that is an understanding and a belief within yourselves that you can do those things too. I would hate to think that you limit the decisions you make or the choices you make or what you're aiming to do in your lives because there are things that you just think you can't achieve because of perhaps your own personal circumstances or where you grew up, or perhaps the things that those people who have come before you in your families have done or not done. And that is the overwhelming message I hope you hear this morning, is that there are some incredible opportunities in front of you now. And when I hear myself say that to young people, I accept that every generation of young people from the dawn of time has probably had a politician stand in front of them saying that there's no better time to be alive, and that is not always true. I accept that. But the truth is that in South Australia now, the opportunities in terms of where you can work, the industries in which you could go on to work, and where that could take you in terms of your own professional careers, but where it could take you in the world, I think are more pronounced and more powerful than they have probably ever been. It is a good time to be out there looking for a career. Employers are doing more in Australia, and certainly in South Australia, where we have a range of exciting projects, whether it's defence or whatever it might be. They are doing more to attract bright young minds into their profession than I think has ever occurred before. And I hope that you use this moment in time that we have in South Australia now, where we do have some incredible opportunity, to make sure that you capitalise on it and use it. And just remember too, there are some amazing things that have been achieved by South Australian people in history that we're pretty good at forgetting or not talking about. And the three examples that spring to mind are the development of the cochlear implant, the development of Wi-Fi, and the creation of penicillin. I mean, they are three incredibly impactful inventions that have not only saved lives but changed lives as well, and they started in our state. And I don't want South Australians to think that because we are a relatively smaller state compared to some of our eastern state neighbours, that means we can't do amazing things, because I think we are, and have always been traditionally, a state that is batted above its average, so to speak, and we should celebrate those incredible stories. You should keep them in the front of your mind when you're thinking about what it is you might do when you leave school. And I very much hope that this morning, when you get to listen to these speakers, that they provide you that confidence and inspiration around what you might go on to do. So thank you to Jan Chorley and the Australia Day Council and Her Excellency as patron for supporting this. I'm very much looking forward to some of the feedback that we will get from students around what they get out of these summits, because we are committed to making sure that the opportunities that you are going to get here today are actually opportunities that we provide to students no matter where they go to school right across South Australia. I hope you enjoyed the morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to invite our patron, Her Excellency the Honourable Francis Adamson AC, to open the Inspiring Australian Student Summit.
Gana bogana alia, gana miana alia, yaichi miana alia kumatana yartananku. Nyatuna tampani, gana miana, yaichi yatamatana, bukininanku, yalaka takarecha. Dear Carl, I should have said Carl Alia actually at the beginning, but dear Carl, dear Aboriginal people from other lands and regions, I know you're here. I want to acknowledge and pay my respects to you all, and I also acknowledge the land we're meeting on this morning is Kaurna country. Now, Craig Scott did a wonderful job of telling you all the names of all the people who are here who are going to speak to you or who have particular reasons for being here. I'd normally do that again, but I'm not going to today because I think you heard it the first time, you're pretty smart, you remember it. The one thing I do want to say about all of those people, though, is I know them all, and I know they all care about you. I know they care about your futures. It's one of the reasons they're here today. They want to help you be your very best selves and to do what you want to do in future. Now, Monday morning, I was in Roxby Downs in the far north of South Australia, and I was speaking to schools, to students, as I have with many of you. And it's wonderful for Rod and I to be back at Christies Beach High School, where we started our school visits program almost 2 years ago. It feels great to be back in this gym. Up in Roxby Downs, though, after I'd talked about what a governor does and after we talked about what these young people were interested in, we had a Q&A like we have with you. And a young man, 15-year-old boy up the back, asked me, he said, did you ever dream about becoming governor one day? And I said truthfully, no, I hadn't dreamt about being governor one day. But I could tell that there was something driving his question rather than just had I thought about it. So I said to him, no, but I did dream about other things, taking on certain roles, having certain responsibilities. I won't talk about that today because today is really all about you. But what I said to him was, we should never be afraid to dream. If there's something that you really want to do, then please think about how you might get there. And today is going to be a really great day because a number of the speakers, probably all of them, will have something to tell you that might help you realise those dreams. The one particular point I want to add is something from my own experience, and that's the value of listening. You can learn so much from listening to other people. I learnt as a diplomat, I learnt it as governor. I continue to do it almost every day because I think some of our best ideas are developed through actively listening to other people. I'm here formally to open this summit, so if I'm going to formally open it, I have to thank the people who've made it possible. And that includes your principals, your teachers, but the Australia Day Council of South Australia, the organisation that I'm patron of, and of course the Department of Education for delivering this series of summits. It's always great, really exciting actually, to be the first to do something. And you today are the first students in South Australia to participate in this summit. You'll hear plenty of stories and insights from the speakers. So I encourage you not only to listen to those inspirational Australians, but to listen to each other, to listen widely and actively. And wherever your life takes you, and it could take you in all sorts of exciting directions. Blair Boyer, as Minister, mentioned some of those, and I know your local MP, Chris Picton, is heavily engaged with you on them, and so is everyone here actually, but in particular Helen Connolly. People have trouble with my name, you know, Adamson. Why should I have trouble with Connolly? Commissioner for Children and Young People, who some of you elected to her position 10 years ago. They all want to support you to do your best, but never underestimate the power of your own voice. Never underestimate the power of the impact that you can have in charting your own future and that of your community, whether it's your school community, your broader community, our state, or our nation. So, I know you'll be inspired today, but let me simply say, because it's a formal part of this, I have much pleasure in declaring the Australian Student Summit Forum open. Thank you.
Thank you, Her Excellency. It's my honour to invite on stage our first guest speaker, Craig Foster AM. Craig is one of Australia's most powerful voices for the disadvantaged. The 29-capped Socceroo and award-winning sports broadcaster has spent the past decade campaigning for refugee rights and marginalised communities. He also promotes anti-racism and active multiculturalism, communities protecting each other. Craig was influential in helping the Afghan women's national football team, the Paralympians, taekwondo athletes and many other girls and women escape Afghanistan as the Taliban took hold of the country in August 21. 2 years earlier, Craig helped secure the release of refugee footballer Hakeem Al Arabi, who faced extradition to Bahrain from Thailand. Craig believes our students of today are an inspiring generation seeking to confront many challenges and Australia has long avoided. He's committed to helping them create a fairer, more equitable Australia and world. The winner of the 2023 New South Wales Australian of the Year, please welcome Craig Foster AM.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, kids. Great to see you this morning and to have a chance to come and have a bit of a chat to you about some of the themes that you've heard about. To Carl, those words were very powerful and heartfelt, and I'll long remember them, my friend. Well done. And all my love to your community and the traditional elders here on the land. To the ministers who are here, thank you very much, and to everyone from the Australia Day Council. It's great to have a chance to come along and have a bit of a chat. So I don't know, many of you might not know me. I'm not only just an older grey-haired dude, but I used to play a bit of soccer, a bit of football when I was young, and including when I was at your age. It doesn't seem that long ago, actually. But I was from a primary state school up in a beautiful area of northern New South Wales. And I had the opportunity to live here in beautiful Adelaide for a few years and play for a club here called Adelaide City. Does anyone know of a club called Adelaide City? Yeah, a couple. And so it's always lovely to come back. I know how wonderful the people are and the communities here. It's an incredible city. So I wanted to just talk about a couple of quick things. We've only got 15 minutes, so someone's going to have to pull me up. Has someone got the time here? Or? Oh, okay, I've got it here. Okay. So you talk about respect, inclusion, and so on, and the last one is achievement, and this is called the Student Summit. So let's talk about trying to get to your summit. First point of getting to your summit, which in many respects I've been able to achieve, is about choosing your own, okay, and not letting people choose it for you. And so when I come down here to play for Adelaide City, I was a young professional player, and I had been living in Asia, playing for a few years. And we were winning lots of trophies and doing all these things, and I was getting paid really well. But, you know, my great dream was to play for Australia. I mean, if you're a sports person, in the same way, if you're an academic or anything, you want to reach the very peak. I wanted to play for this country, right, ever since I was a little young. And so I was over in Asia, and things were going so well, but in order to play for Australia, I'd have to come back here. And that meant I would have to take a huge hit in what I was earning. I have to take a huge step backwards in order to try and go forwards. And you know, the interesting thing, kids, is that almost everyone told me don't do it. My family, because your family love you and they want the best for you. And quite often they don't want you to go through difficulties. They just want the easiest path. But reaching the top is not always easy. In fact, it's never easy. That's why it's important, that's why it's valuable, and that's why when you get there, you can be incredibly proud of what you did. So I decided to leave there and come back to Australia. Actually, it was when I came to Adelaide City. And they said, well, you haven't been here for years, you're like 24 years old, you're too old, we're using young players, we don't really want you. You know, I said, listen, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay me. Just give me whatever you can afford. But you guys are the national champions. They'd won the year before. And I said, I know if I come to your team and I make it in your team, that I'm going to play for Australia. So I didn't go to the bottom team. That would have been easy. I didn't come back to earn money. It would have been easy. I said to them, don't worry what you pay me. So money doesn't matter, guys. Achievement matters. And it'll come with that. And so I went from, like, you know, a couple $100,000 or something. This is going way back in the 90s here. We're going back when I still had black hair, right? And I came back here, and you know how much they paid me in 1 year? $8,000. $8,000. I was 24 years old, right? I wasn't a kid. So what happened is, they said, they said, we'll put you in accommodation here. We own a house in Adelaide. We'll put you in the house with young players so you can mentor them and you can stay there. I said, that'd be fantastic. And they became my lifelong friends. So I lived in a house with all these kids, and I had one aim, was to achieve what I wanted to achieve, not what other people wanted me to do, not what other people said I couldn't do. So anyways, pretty easy, right? It's a decision. All right, you're a bit brave, you come and do something. You know what happened? I trained so hard. I came in my first game, I got a tackle and I broke my foot. So all that effort, all that work, I'd worked months. You know, this is my big dream here. Here I go. The first game, I broke my foot. So I had 6 weeks out. I was in a cast, took the cast off. I said to the doctor, when am I right to play? He said, next week. I said, great. I went in, the first kick, I broke it again. Right? So by this time, what's happening is all my friends are overseas. They're earning all the money, winning more trophies, having a wonderful life, living in great big resorts. And they're saying to me, "You are an idiot. What are you doing? You've just broken your foot twice." The old team that I was captain of in Asia, they were ringing me saying, "Don't worry, come back. Here's a big contract. Come back here and live. We want you back. The fans want you back." I said, "No, I'm going to keep going." So I went and trained hard again. I came back, and you wouldn't believe what happened the third time. In the third time I came back, I took longer. I took like 10 weeks. I walked into the first game, and would you believe within 15 minutes I broke the foot again. Right? I broke the foot 3 times, and then I put a screw in it, which is still in there today. And that screw is a reminder, in that bone in my foot is a reminder of how hard we have to work for what it is that we want to achieve. Because I'd already lost almost a season, right? So I had this wonderful dream, and now I've lost a whole year. Now I'm 25, that's older. And the odds of achieving what I wanted to achieve, kids, had gone way down, okay? And now I was a bit broken. You know what the club said to me? "Listen, every time you come back, you get injured, we don't really want you here, right? Because, we've got, we need a player who's going to be fit." And I said to them, "Okay, don't worry, I'll just come back and play for free." So what I did is I said, "Look, I've got to be so ready here. There's no time left. I've got to be more ready than anyone in this entire competition." This is the national competition of Australia. And so I went off back up to Lismore, and I decided, what is it that I have to do to be the best I can possibly be? And this is the question you're going to have to answer for yourselves. Do you understand? If you want to do something special for you, not for me, not for your parents, not what they want you to do, what you want to do, if you want to be the best in the world, this is the question you're going to have to answer. What do I have to do to be my best? And so I decided, well, I need to be the fittest in the whole competition. Now, I can't swim. I don't know, there's probably some good swimmers in here, right? But I don't swim very well. And I hate getting on a bike and do cycling, right? It hurts my backside, right? So, but I decided that I was going to do a triathlon every second day for 3 months. So I did 3 a week. So I swam 1K kilometre. That's a long way, guys. It's a long way. Too far. I would cycle 30 Ks and I would run 10 kilometres, none of which I enjoy doing. I would do it every second day, and then on the 7th day, the Sunday, I would just rest. Come back on the Monday, still sore, and go again. And you know what? When I broke that third bone, I had to go back and basically sit down and say, how much do I really want this to happen? How much do I really want it? It's what you're going to have to answer in university when it gets really hard, right? And all your friends want to go out and muck around, but you know that you need to buckle down and do your work. It's what you're going to. It's where you're going to be tested when you get into your first job, get into your first profession, and it's what you're going to have to answer when you say, okay, I'm a scientist or I'm a tradie, I'm whatever I am, but I know I can be better. Am I going to take the easy path or am I going to take the hard path? Okay, and I'm here to tell you that if you take the hard one and you do the work and it's tough, by the time you get to the end, you're going to achieve something so, so special. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do that. That's what they told me. I'm from a school exactly like you. I'm from up in the country. Right. So by the time I got back, thankfully they let me play another game. And would you imagine I got through it? Right? I didn't get injured. And we went on that year, we made the grand final, had a good year. And within like 3 months, in the first 10 games, I was so fit, I scored 8 goals in 10 games. It was like some sort of record or something. And I was in the national team, the thing that I most dreamed about, but was that close to stopping. I was that close to saying, nah, stuff it, I'll go back abroad. I was that close to giving in my greatest dream. I was within that much of not standing here, of not, I don't know where I would have ended up. Right? And so when it gets the hardest, when you really are doubting the most, and you're doubting yourself, and you're doubting if you have the courage to keep going, and everyone's attacking you because you've got a different way of doing things, in that moment is when you know you're actually closest to doing something special. Okay? Doing great things doesn't come without pressure or challenge. And so within a year, I went overseas and played for Australia, played and captained for Crystal Palace and went on. And after that, I've been 20 years in the media, having a wonderful life. I travel all around and do all the World Cups. You know, go to Brazil, go to South Africa, you know, go to US in a couple of years. Like a huge amount of fun. Just remember, none of that would be remotely possible if in those moments you don't look at yourself in the mirror and say, listen, do I actually have the courage? Well, I'm here to tell you that you do. Right. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the other issues, which are even more important, right? And that is around respect and inclusion. The beautiful thing about playing sport is that we get to play against other countries. And what we do is we go and stand on the same field, and then we all hold our flags and we stand next to each other and we say, oh, we respect each other. And then we go on and we play in the Olympics that many of you guys will watch, which is coming up shortly, and the Matilda's going to be doing that. I'll be doing it on air. It's going to be wonderful to see. Right. But the question for us is, when we get off the field, how much do we really believe in each other's value? How much do we really believe that the Matildas are the most loved national team, sporting team in the whole country? 11.5 million people watch them play against France. That's a new television record. It's not a sporting television record. It's a television record. More people watch the Matildas play a game than have ever watched anything on Australian TV ever. But what does that say about the way that we look at the Matildas, the way that we look at women in society, the way we look at our fellow students? Right. You make sure that you take the same lessons from there to here. Okay? And that is that in Australia, we are all equal. In Australia, we can all have different faiths. We can all look different. We can all have different cultural backgrounds. Why do I know that? Because I stood with everyone and played in the same team. And when I see the Matildas play, I see the faces of this group here. The Matildas national team represents you because it looks like you. And our Socceroos team looked like you. It looked like this room. And when we take the field, we are together. So we must be together off. And what that means in this environment, and my one ask for you today is this, that you make sure that people around you treat others the right way. Okay? I don't care where they come from. I don't care where your parents are from. I don't care what you eat. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what faith you have. I don't care what religious dress that you wear. All of you are equal, and all of you should be treated equally. Okay? And so each of us has a responsibility to make sure that when we hear others doing the opposite and saying that this person here for some particular reason is not of the same value as me, then you just remember that that is not true. It works both ways, right? If you have the opportunity to do great things in your life, to challenge yourself and to show your strength and your courage to do what is right, then so too do other people around you. You want the best for yourself, you must want the best for them. That's what Australia should be, and that's what I believe your generation is going to become. I'm inspired by you guys because you're facing challenges that we never faced. We left many of the challenges for you, and I'm sorry for that. But I'll tell you what, the way that you guys are together, the way that you are understanding the world, the way that you are mobilising in student protests around climate and all of these issues, you're inspiring us. I just want to let you know one thing, that is that you can do it. Okay, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. Okay, never, ever forget that. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. All right, it's nice to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Craig. They were really inspiring words. Our next guest speaker is Tiahni Adamson, a proud Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander woman descended from the Kurug nations and is passionate about sustainability. She graduated from the University of Adelaide with a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Conservation Biology and is now the Lead Community Engagement Officer at climate change solutions company CH4 Global. where she ensures Indigenous knowledge is embedded into the company's projects. Tiahni has worked with the CSIRO on Indigenous education programs, trained under Al Gore as a climate reality leader in 2019, and fostered relationships between First Nations communities and government. Tiahni is also on the national leadership team with SEED, Australia's only First Nations-led climate youth justice, and a youth dialogue member for the Uluru Statement from the Heart. She was recognised in 2023 as one of the Science and Technology Australia's superstars of STEM and the winner of the 2024 SA Young Australian of the Year. Tiahni, thank you.
Kapu miki bakatainga, everybody. Good morning. That's a greeting from my language. I'm a Karareg woman, and we are the traditional owners of Thursday Island, or Wabin, in Zendathkes, or the English word, or the colonised word, is the Torres Strait Islands. I'd just like to invite you to put your 2 feet on the ground for a second, and if you feel comfortable, to close over your eyes. We're here on Kaurna land, and this land is very, very, very old. The survival of Kaurna people has been here for over 65,000 years, and the landscape on this country where you're sitting right now looked very different only 250 years ago. Things have changed really rapidly here on Kaurna country, and we have a really multicultural and diverse community that lives and exists here now. I invite you, when you reflect about the country that you're on and the history of this place and the recent colonisation and rapid changes here, that you try and think of ways in your own life that you can bring together this division between really old ways and new ways, with a multicultural society that works together in unity and harmony, with equity at the forefront of your mind. It's really important that we continue to acknowledge our traditional owners, and I thank Bala Carl for his beautiful yarn with us this morning. Take a big deep breath, feeling the spirit of Kaurna land in your lungs, and a big exhale. Really nice. You can blink your eyes open. Feel free to shake your hands around. It's a big morning, and I know that it's a lot of listening. So this is a yarning circle on Kaurna country at a boarding school called Wiltshire, which was designed to have equitable education for people from the APY lands to be able to come down and continue studying here in Adelaide. And this is a really nice reminder for me about the circular way that First Nations people integrate their knowledges with others, sitting down on the same level, not usually up higher than one another. And as was spoken to us before about not being separate or different or above one another, but all being the same, and our responsibility to honour that within each other. So this is me when I was your age. I might have had a glow up, maybe not, it's up to you. I grew up originally on a place called Palm Island. Does anyone know where that is? A couple down the front. So Palm Island is one of the largest Aboriginal communities, and it's off the coast of Townsville. And we lived there in the early 2000s, back when I was a little bit smaller than I am now. And there was a lot of police brutality and a lot of issues within community at the time, a lot of domestic violence. For me as a young person, Palm Island was the best place on earth. We were really connected with country, and I learnt how to grow up and care for country as a normal part of my living. So we would do burns and we would sustainably fish from the ocean, and we lived in an environment where if the barge didn't come across, so a big boat with food and resources, if that didn't come across on time, we didn't have food. So you had to know how to live off the land, which was a pretty cool way to live. After living on Palm Island, we came back down to Adelaide for a little bit, and then I moved to regional and rural South Australia, so Port Augusta, anyone's heard of that, Nookanu country? Yeah? And Coffin Bay, which is near Port Lincoln. Has anyone heard of Coffin Bay? Yeah, great seafood, bit of surfing around the coast there, amazing places to camp, great oysters, not that everyone likes those. Someone told me recently it tastes like a slug in a shell. but that's okay, I like them. And I went to a school called Cummins Area School, which was an agricultural school, which is why I'm giving my lead steer, Marley is what I called him, a big hug here. So I grew up in a family that, maybe similarly to some of you, we had no money growing up. We didn't have many resources. And I thought when I was younger that my options in life would be limited by my class and by my family and by what that looked like, and also by my culture. When I was living on the island, I was one of the most light-skinned Indigenous people that were living there. And then when I came to the mainland, I had my identity always questioned about being too light to be black or too black to be white. And that's something that a lot of us who are multicultural live with. And I ask you in this space right now to consider if you have those sorts of questions that come from probably your family, to ask yourself how that would actually make someone feel in life and what you can do to bridge that gap in making someone question their identity and who they are. Since I was 3 years old, I wanted to be a vet, and I achieved that, started achieving that when I finished high school. I moved back down to Adelaide. There's no universities in the country, as you probably well know, and I started studying to be a veterinarian. I started this by moving to Naarm or Melbourne and then came back down to Adelaide. I studied veterinary science for 4 years and then ended up dropping out. So my aim when I was a vet was to work with wildlife and marine animals. I loved camping, I loved fishing, I loved being out on the boat. And I realised that we were having a lot of marine entanglements and a lot of issues in our wildlife systems. So I thought being a vet would be the right way to go. So there's some cool little bits up here. The picture right up on the right-hand side, I'm doing a surgery on a stingray in Thailand. And I was trying to work out what not a surgery, a necropsy. I was trying to work out what the cause of death was. Can anyone guess what it would have been? Yeah? What was that, sorry? It was marine plastics, full of plastics. Yeah, pretty big issue that we have now, hey? The bit in the middle is an alpaca's face, some stitching that I did that I'm quite proud of, so ta-da, there you go. There's my failed vet student's surgery work. The dingoes down on the other side are from Kangaroo Island in a wildlife park. And up the top on your left is a Waru in Cairns at the Turtle Rehabilitation Centre. And that's a place that takes in injured turtle and looks after them and then releases them back into the wild. So I had a rough run in vet. I had a lot of things going on and faced a lot of really difficult issues in my early 20s that came up. And the last straw was getting kicked in the head by a cow. Yeah. I was on placement on a beef farm and got kicked in the face, and I kid you not, the egg was like this far from my head. It was quite funny. And it took 3 ambulance trips to get me from Tintinara down to Adelaide. And the doctors didn't think that I would ever be able to walk again. So I felt like that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back at that time. And throughout my university journey, I'd been really heavily involved with working with communities and my family and with standing up for country. I said before that it was ingrained in me to heal and look after country, to live in a beautiful symbiotic relationship with nature. And so I started getting into activism and standing beside other traditional owners from all over Australia to be able to do this work. In the space of activism, I realised that our First Nations communities are often the most affected by the climate crisis and contribute the least to it. So our people on our island nations and our First Nations communities who contribute the least to greenhouse gases and the least to the environmental demise are often affected the most. 80% of biodiversity in the world is actually looked after by less than 5% of the population of Indigenous peoples. So I transferred degrees, which is quite an easy thing to do if you change your mind, which is really great, and I started studying a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Conservation Biology. So some beautiful family in Zenith Kes or the Torres Strait, and something that we say really often is that our sea levels are rising and so are we. Does anyone know how far Zenith Kes is from sea level, the islands? Does anyone want to guess? 1 metre. Yeah, so if there's a king tide, things get pretty hairy. But with sea level rising, we're seeing massive impacts in our communities. So we've started having to dig up along the coastline our ancestors' remains and move them into the middle of the island so that they don't get washed away. And you can imagine how that would feel, having to dig up some of your family and relocate them to put them back to rest on country. It's an awful thing to have to do. And our families in the Torres Strait Islands and the impacts that they're having from sea level rise aren't contributing to this environmental demise. So during my studies, with this massive injustice that I was feeling and this hurt in country and this pain that's coming through our environmental demise, I started talking to people a lot more about what was going on and giving a different lens and perspective, and starting to talk with other First Nations people and pass the microphone so that they can have their voices heard. Because traditionally First Nations people didn't get an opportunity to go to school or to have their voices heard or to vote, plus a myriad of other things. So we're in a different time now, but we've still got a lot to do. So when I was having these conversations with people, the scale and the scope of what I was doing started to increase, and I started to travel around and do this public speaking thing that I'm doing right now to bridge the gap between understanding and try and have our voices heard in the space. I went to Brisbane and did the Climate Reality Leaders program, which is by Al Gore. Does anyone know who Al Gore is? You might have seen him on South Park otherwise. He's the ex-Vice President of America, and he's an amazing human who contributes a lot really positively to looking after the environment. And I got to learn about science communication and the importance of doing that. While I was at uni, I was travelling. My whole life I've been working alongside our communities, not just my own, but a variety of different First Nations communities across the country, and having the opportunity to work in traditional land management. So this is a picture up in Arnhem Land, which is right up the top of Australia, which is Yolngu country, and working with young people. You know that as a young person, you are the future of our society, and you're the future leaders and the future communities that will come through. So I think it's really important to work with young people and to make sure that you've got the same equal opportunities and access so that you all can reach for your dreams and be able to achieve what you desire. After 7 years at uni, I finally got a degree. Yes, that's a really long time for an undergrad. They're normally about 3 years, but I got one. It took me 7, that's okay. A reminder of this slide is that if you aren't sure if you're fit for university or not, there are so many support systems and things that can help you here. So my family couldn't afford to go through uni, but I enrolled and I applied for scholarships and I applied through Centrelink to get support, and I kept going and I worked 3 jobs and I just showed up and did my work and went to uni and went to work and went to uni and went to work, and somehow ended up getting through. And this degree has opened up doors and opportunities for me that I never would have been able to access if I didn't go. So if you're from a low socioeconomic family and you're not sure if you can afford it or not, speak to the university that you're hoping to get involved in and say, I'm not sure how I'm going to make this work, and they'll be able to help you, which is really cool. Lots of ways that you can still access education no matter where your background or social class or culture is from. And when I graduated, I got to wear this beautiful sash. Because I'm an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander woman, I had both colours of the flags wrapped around my neck, which made me feel really proud. I'm the first person in my family to graduate uni and one of the first to finish high school as well, which is exciting. My sister's in year 12 at the moment, my youngest sister, and she is freaking out trying to work out what she's going to do. So I understand where some of you might be in your minds at the moment, and I just ask you to have a big deep breath and remember who you are and think about what you love and what drives you and what you're passionate about, but I'll speak a bit more about that later. So what I do now as a scientist, I've worked in a variety of different fields. I was a fisheries officer. Does anyone know what a fisheries officer does? Yeah, if you've been fishing before, your parent or caregiver might not enjoy the presence of a fisheries officer. It's basically the marine compliance on the sea and on land to make sure that you're not catching too much or catching things that are too small so that they can go through a breeding cycle. So that was really fun. It got me my commercial boat operating licence, so I can drive a vessel up to 24 metres and be able to spend a lot of time on sea, as well as being able to do different research projects on sea country, which is awesome, especially as a saltwater woman. After working in fisheries, I decided I wanted to go back more into serving the community, and so I started working for this place called CH4 Global. Does anyone know what's in this beaker? What was that? Red? Don't be ashamed. Seaweed. Yeah. This is a really cool seaweed. It's the second love of my life, seaweed. It's a bit sad, isn't it? But I'm a bit of a nerd. So in the scope of our environmental crisis, there are a lot of different factors that contribute to it. Within the agricultural sector, there's massive contributors that affect our climate crisis. So we've got two different greenhouse gases that really affect our environment. One's carbon dioxide. You all would have heard about the impacts of carbon dioxide. And the other one is methane. Methane is CH4, so the company CH4 Global that I work for is Methane Global. It's 88 times more potent or has more heating potential than carbon dioxide. And it also lives in the environment for a much shorter amount of time. So it's about 20 to 25 years instead of 108. This means that if we reduce methane, we will radically be able to change and look after our environment. So 1/3 of global methane emissions come from cow burps and farts. Gross. So you're breathing in heaps of cow burps and farts right now. We feed this product, Asparagopsis, to cattle and it reduces their methane output by 90%. So it's a massive lever that we have to be able to positively contribute to climate change. With this work that I've been doing and sharing this story and working along First Nations communities to grow seaweed and hill country, to be able to have opportunities with revegetating land blocks and working on all these different side projects at the same time, it's taken me all over the world. And here's a couple of highlights. So Algore's down the bottom. This is in Mbantua or Alice Springs on the left, listening to a beautiful Aranda elder talking about healing country and working with the youth and the difficulty of what's happening in Alice at the moment. Some of the resources that we've created have been going around schools about First Nations wisdom and healing country. The one up the top left is in Hawaii. I've been speaking with other youth from all over the Pacific about how we can have better marine solutions and work with our environment. I spoke in Parliament House twice this year, which is really cool, in Canberra. So that was interesting. A person with a mullet and tattoos can speak in Parliament House. So if that's on your wish list, it's also accessible for you too. And for some crazy reason, this effort and this energy that I've put into this has started to be recognised. In this space, the effort and the recognition means a lot, but for me personally, I stand on the shoulders of 2,500 generations of people and ancestors before me to get me to where I am today. So all of this recognition and all of this awards and the media coverage for me is just a big reflection of the strength and resilience of my family and of all First Nations people who have been doing this work for a really long time. I got to go on Triple J with Dr. Carl. I was on the Science Hour. That was pretty rad, another highlight. I was on a magazine cover. Super weird, but that's cool. I got to speak with Costa, the gardening man with the epic beard. Very, very fun. And then down the bottom, a bunch of First Nations mob who were all in the Australian of the Year awards this year. So that was at the Prime Minister's house. Crazy. An absolute highlight was the recognition for the South Australian Young Australian of the Year and the platform that's given me to reach more people and to be able to increase the message of what we're doing and the scope, and hopefully it'll get us some more funding to be able to get First Nations communities more involved in healing country and having their voices heard. So these are the questions that I want you to ask yourself in the future now. How do you honour your younger self? So this is me sitting in a waterfall in Palm Island when I was a kid. How do I honour my ancestors and the people that have come before me? How do I honour future generations, so yourselves and the people younger than you? And the last one is new. It's because I've been burning out a lot. And how do you regenerate yourself and rejuvenate yourself to do this work for life? Life is a marathon, not a sprint, so you need to look after yourself. Good luck. Feel free to reach out and ask me any questions in future, and all the best.
Thanks so much, Tiahni. A bit of a change now. Carly Blakers, one half of indie pop duo Teenage Jones, is a young songwriter based here in Adelaide. She burst onto the scene in 2018 with the release of her debut single, The Kids Are Cool, But They're Not Okay. Drawing influence from Camp Cope and the 1975, her lyrics and raw, honest as her songs are playful. In 2020, Teenage Jones won the Triple J Unearthed High, and in 2023, Teenage Jones were the support act for the Foo Fighters at the Perth and Melbourne gigs. She's just returned from the touring in the US. Please welcome Carly Blakers.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. My name's Carly, as Craig just said. I'm going to be playing a song for you today. I have a question. Is anyone here 15? Anyone? Hell yeah. I wrote this song when I was 15, and I actually hate it so much. But I thought it'd be a good one to play because it's what started everything for me, and I guess the decisions you make now can impact your future if you want them to. So that's not what it's called. This song is called 3-Leaf Clover. We won Triple J Unearthed High in 2020, and this is a song we won with. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Carly. Carly's a family friend as well, so it was really appreciated. Our next speaker, Mark Le Messurier, has devoted his life to improving the self-worth, well-being, mental health and life outcomes of young people. He focuses on who he calls the tough kids who have been struggling in some capacity. This includes children with disabilities, global development delays, disadvantage, disorders, neglect or combination of issues. Mark's generosity and consideration for others is profound, far-reaching and life-changing. He's helped many families and he's a relatable role model and mentor. He's also the winner of the 2022 SA Senior Australian of the Year. Thanks, Mark.
I'd just like to say before I start, Tiahni and Carl, thank you so much for just that heartfelt taking us so close to country. That I felt that so deeply, and I'm sure everybody else in this room did too. I also warmly welcome the Governor of South Australia, Her Excellency, the Honourable Frances Adamson. I got there, didn't I? And her husband, Rod, too. Rod, welcome. I would also like to welcome distinguished guests. There are many, but I would especially like to welcome every student sitting in this room. You have been awesome. I guess people call me an activist, but that's actually not how I see myself. You see, I've just had this long, crazy commitment to advocate, to stand up for young people, for kids who just do life so much tougher than most others. For those who deal with barriers in life due to disability, disadvantage, or neurodivergence. Neurodivergence, of course, includes ADHD, autism, anxiety, dyslexia, trauma, and so much more. How many young people am I talking about? Well, to give you some idea, look around the room. It's at least 1 in 5 of you in the room. That's a lot of people, but it's often hidden under the carpet and it's not discussed. Why? What drives me to do this? Because I actually hate injustice. Because I see your hurt in the clients that I work with. Because I feel your frustration. Because I witness your isolation at times. And I also witness how these feelings can steal hopeful futures. For too long, we've overlooked the needs of those who are different and who face barriers we could have actually very easily removed. To me, it's unacceptable in a compassionate community to do nothing about this, because feelings around being not good enough, feeling isolated, and not being able to dream big about your future are sure triggers for mental health difficulties. How crazy is my commitment to what I do? Well, 18 books later, 40 articles later, 3 websites later, 10 audio books later, 18 videos later, and many podcasts later, I'm still urging parents, teachers, and health professionals to see that a person's behaviour, even though it may be a tricky behaviour, is expressing a deep emotional need to connect or to belong or to feel valued or to feel better. And then 12 years ago, a friend and I developed a simple program, and it's now used daily in more than 140 countries, now in many languages, in schools, in all kinds of community groups, and it's called What's the Buzz? It allows kids, teens, adults to connect through a community of choice. neurodivergents and neurotypicals, and many from diverse backgrounds meet together in a safe environment to have fun, to exchange their ideas and to understand each other's diversity and difference. They quickly work out that not all brains travel the same developmental pathway. That nothing is more important than throwing our masks away, finding our real identity and feeling valued for who we truly are. They develop great friendship because they learn to trust and appreciate each other. Where does my drive to do this come from? Well, perhaps this photo gives a clue. It's me at kindy. Take a close look. Can you see it? Yeah, I'm off, looking into space, seeking another universe that doesn't exist, maybe. Daydreaming, but not sometimes, constantly, all the time. As it turns out, I've got ADHD. ADHD is a medical term, and it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. And ADHD has a double curse because it uses two negative words, doesn't it? Deficit and disorder. It belongs in medicine, apparently, but it does not belong in our day-to-day language and our thinking between each other. And while I'm on this, the same applies to autism. Yes, our language around autism is also changing really quickly too. Today we use the terms autism and autistic because it respects a person's core identity. Today we no longer use the term ASD, autism spectrum disorder, because the D stands for disorder. The word disorder is not neuroaffirming. The term disorder is disconnecting. And honestly, I don't see myself as deficit, disordered, or less than anybody else. So here's my first message to you. If you are neurodiverse, if you have ADHD, autism, anxiety, dyslexia, or have suffered trauma, or whatever, you are not disordered. You are not less than anyone else. In fact, you are perfect the way that you've turned out. But you may not be a great fit for your classroom or for your school. When I left Year 12, I didn't receive a SACE or an ATAR. I did not make my parents proud. I was unavailable to learn at primary and high school because the odds are stacked really high against those of us who are constantly attracted to the next bright and shiny thing. It does not help the completion of assignments. To be successful in school, no matter how smart you are, you need to be able to sit on your bum, concentrate, listen, strategise, arrive on time with that assignment in your hand or uploaded. Bottom line is, if you can't concentrate, it's just tough to be engaged with schoolwork. My passion and my purpose were slowly revealed over time through some achievements, a lot of uncomfortable experiences, and more than my fair share of failures. So please, do not measure your self-worth or your potential based on how well you may be doing at school right now. And do you know that this kind of neuro-affirming awareness is sweeping through the community and schools? It is a global revolution. But South Australia is leading in this with the fabulous Minister of Autism, Emily Burke. In reality, she is the Minister for Neurodivergence. Neuroscience now tells us that parts of a neurodivergent brain actually look different because the brain is built and wires up differently. And because of this, my neurodivergent brain processes the world differently. So, if you're the same as me, or if you have a friend, or a brother, or a sister who's neurodivergent, here's how to think about it. Our brain's operating system is a remarkable variation to the human rhythm, and it is to be respected. It's like being a fabulous Mac living in a bloody PC world. And there is nothing wrong with the fabulous Mac. It's just different. And this style brings strengths and challenges, especially early in life. This difference means we're likely to find success very differently to others. Having this unique brain wiring affects the way we feel, think, communicate, plan, right through to managing our emotions. These days, that little boy on screen with ADHD has grown into the old me. It's my normal. I'm proud to own it. I've learnt how to work with it just as others do and just as you will. And in the end, I did go to university. I did get degrees, but I wasn't ready for uni until my very late 20s. It's up to each of us to value neurodiversity. But just saying we value it means nothing. It's in what we say and do every day. It's in how you positively reframe your own neurodiversity. It's in how you accept the neurodiversity of others so they can feel proud about who they are. And I'll finish by reading a quote from one of my books. Don't worry, it's really short. I wish for each of you to carry this in your hearts and minds forever. Now it's your turn to live on this fabulous blue planet. You face so much uncertainty, political unrest, global warming, climate change, disputes about displaced people, food security, housing affordability, and fear about what the future holds. But you are extraordinary. You already have deep capabilities, and this is where hope lies. Our future is with you. Please revel in the fact that you're alive and have wondrous opportunities to see, breathe, feel, do, exist, experience, and celebrate life. You are wonderfully unique. The atoms that merged to make you who you are did so like never before and will never do so again. There will never be another you anywhere else in the universe. You are a matchless creation on this fabulous blue planet. Be kind to each other, but most importantly, learn to be gentle on yourselves. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Mark. That certainly resonates with a lot of people. I remember when I was at high school, I turned up to a history class and my table and chair was in the hallway and the teacher just said, "I can't put up with you today." So I know what you feel. Our last speaker is Dr Trudy Lin. As the youngest of only 20 practising specialists in Australia's special needs dentistry sector, Trudy provides oral health care to people with disability, psychiatric illness and complex medical issues such as cancer. She also treats people experiencing homelessness and domestic violence. Trudy's passion for dentistry started as a child after seeing the profound impact poor oral health had on her father's life, including physical and social and psychological well-being. From then on, she was set on specialising in special needs dentistry to care for the most vulnerable people, a place she believed her profession could create the most positive impact. Trudy continues to dedicate her career to improving access to oral health care and to create the most positive impact. Winner of the 2022 South Australian of the Year, Young South Australian of the Year, Dr Trudy Lin.
Hello everyone. You've all been so good at paying attention today. Great job. I'm so happy to be here. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we're meeting on today, the Kaurna people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge all the dignitaries that we have here today as well, Your Excellency, and also Mr Bunton, the ministers that are here, and also the teachers and all of you students. I just want to get a gauge and get to know my audience a little bit. All the year 9s, could you raise your hands and show me where you are? Hi. And year 10s? So we've got like a half-half mix, very good. And teachers, where are you all sitting? Great. So you heard a little bit about me already. Has anyone actually heard of special needs dentistry before you heard my bio just then? Just show me some hands. Oh, great. Good to see that there's some of you. I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't, because I'm a little bit of an endangered species. There's not many people that do what I do. I'm one of only 26 specialists that do this in the entire country. And I'm one of only 3 in South Australia. And when you think about the statistics that Mark just told you, that 1 in 5 people are living with a disability, there's so much need out there. And so today, I'm really pleased to be here to be able to share with you about my passion and tell you about what I do. But then also at the same time, I want to share with you about how I figured out what career path I wanted to go on. How many of you are starting to get questions from family or friends about what are you going to do when you grow up? Show of hands? Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, isn't it? So I really hope that through hearing the stories of all the inspiring speakers that we've had today, that you'll be able to take some golden nuggets to help you to then figure it out on your journey. So I work at a clinic in Mile End and I see patients very similar to the people that Mark look after as well. People with disability, people with complex medical issues like cancer, or people may have been experiencing some pretty challenging times in their life, like homelessness. And I also decided to start working in mobile dentistry. So show of hands, are there any of you that have family members that might be living in a residential facility? Yeah, so there's actually quite a few of you. So I actually go in and see people who have dementia that live in a living facility. You think about how difficult it would be for them to be able to go to a practice and see a dentist. And when I found out about that need, I went, well, I'm going to go to them. And so I spend a lot of time on my knees, as you can see. My physio has me wearing knee pads. And I go and look after people inside the comfort of their own homes. I also look after people who have autism that might find it very stressful to go into a dental surgery. And then the rest of the time, I spend doing things like this, speaking to students like you. I run some leadership workshops as well, because I really believe in being able to inspire people and then to also raise awareness and advocate for my passion. And so the first thing that helped me to really dedicate my career to the things that I do now is to figure out my why. What was going to be my strong driving reason that's going to get me through all the tough times, to keep on taking the next step forward and keep pursuing my passion. And so I invite you all to really reflect on what it is that matters most to you. What things do you really value? And I'm going to tell you what mine was. I became a dentist because I believe in inclusion. I believe that every person matters and every person deserves access to live to their true potential. And I learned from a young age that having good oral health is important for people to be able to access that potential and live the life they want to lead. After all, what's one of the first things that you notice about someone when you first look at them? It's their smile, you got it. So your smile is so much more than just a facial expression. It's that first point of connection with others, and it gives you the self-confidence to then go out into the world and do what you dream to do. And I'm going to get you to do a little bit of participation now. I'm going to show you the power of a smile. Can you all show me with your hands, from a scale of 1 to 10, how you're feeling right now? Where 1 is like not so good and 10 is on top of the world. Just show me now with your hands. Oh, pretty good. We've got some pretty high numbers there. That's great. Now, I want you to turn to the person next to you and just flash them a big smile. Go. Great work, everyone. Okay, now, answer the same question again. Show me with your hands how you're feeling now. Oh, I see a lot of 10s now. And can you feel the energy in the room lift? Can you feel that energy? Yeah. So that's just one small example of how simple just smiling to the person next to you can create that point of connection. It can create inclusion, and it's just so simple. And so this is a picture of my dad's mouth. So he had this condition called tetracycline staining, which stained his teeth like this. And so he didn't have access to that really simple point of connection with others. He would look at someone and he'd be too ashamed of his smile to then reach out and then just say hello. It also meant that when he went for job interviews, instead of basing whether they hired him or not based on his qualification or his skills, they judged him based on his smile, and he found it really hard to get a job. And so that's how my passion for then wanting to help others not have to experience the same things that my dad did. And I made it my mission to create more inclusion in our society by helping people to be able to eat, speak, and smile freely. And then the way that I found my passion into special needs dentistry was from drawing more upon my family's lived experience. So this is a picture of my youngest brother, Aaron, who has autism. And this is a picture of my dear grandmother, who I was very close to, and she passed away from cancer. And it was from seeing their experiences, realising how many more challenges that they have from their life conditions, but then also having more trouble accessing dental care, that led me to become a specialist in special needs dentistry. And so then the next question to answer is, why am I so passionate about looking after people with disability? And I'd like to answer this question by asking you all some questions. So a little bit more participation again. If you or someone you care about is living with autism, ADHD, or intellectual impairment, could you please stand up? Thank you. Now, everyone that's standing, please stay standing. If you or someone you care about is living with multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, or Down syndrome, then could you please stand up? If you or someone you care about has had an injury, is living with chronic pain, has arthritis or fibromyalgia or carpal tunnel syndrome, could you please stand up? If you or someone you care about has vision loss, so they wear glasses, or they have hearing loss, then could you please stand up? If you or someone you care about has had cancer, has had a stroke, dementia, or Parkinson's disease, then could you please stand up? And finally, if you or someone you care about has experienced anxiety, depression, PTSD, or trauma or schizophrenia, then stand on up. Okay, everyone, take a look around you. Look at how many people are standing. This is the reason for my passion. Disability affects all of us, and this is why inclusion of people with disability should matter to all of us. Thank you, everyone. You can take your seats. And so, what you all just showed is how universal disability is already. And if you noticed, all of the conditions that I read out, most of them are not visible. They're not something that you can see as soon as you see someone. And this is why people don't realise just how common it is in our community. And much like Mark, I really dislike the term disorder or disability because it makes it sound like there's something wrong with it. No, when you think of the word disabled, what does that bring to mind? What that person's not able to do, right? So I actually like the term diversability. When you think about that, what comes to mind? It makes you think about how they just have different or diverse abilities. And there's nothing wrong with diversity. In fact, that's something that we should embrace because it makes our world a much more wonderful and interesting place. And so I'm going to share with you something that I'm really passionate about raising awareness about in relation to the patients I look after. So did you know that Australians living with an intellectual disability die 20 years younger than the general population? And guess what the leading cause of their premature death is? It's a lung disease from inhaling dental plaque. Yes, I know, that's a reaction I usually get. It's pretty shocking, right? And so if you know someone that has an intellectual disability, I want you to help me spread the word that brushing teeth saves lives. And so I've just shared with you how I found my pathway into the work that I'm doing now through figuring out what I valued the most, drawing upon my lived experience, and then using that to guide my pathway. But you've heard from some pretty amazing people today, and some of you might be thinking, well, that's good for you guys, but you might be thinking that there's something special about us, that we're kind of like unicorns that have some special ability to be able to do the things that we have. But I'm telling you, that's not true. There's nothing special about us that isn't special about each and every one of you as well. And so I want to leave you with this message, is that if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Don't think that there's anything that stops you from being able to pursue the passions that we have. You might have noticed a little bit of a theme through all of our speeches today. We all, through our own lived experience and our unique view set of the world and our background, we just learnt something and found something that we cared about and just continue to pursue that. So for you, do the same thing. Find out what your driving reason why is going to be. And then, as Mark so beautifully put it, remember that you have so much intrinsic worth and value. You know, it's amazing to think that in this universe, there is no one else who is just like you. You know, every experience, memory, moment, and conversation that has made up the sum of who you are is completely unique. And so you will have a very unique contribution that only you can make to this world and to this community. And so believe in that value that you hold and believe that if you can dream it, you can achieve it. And until you can build up this belief in yourself, borrow the belief of the people around you. Borrow the belief of me. I know the other speakers believe in you too. That's why we're here speaking to you today. Borrow the belief of the ministers who have supported and created this event. The Australia Day Council all believe in you as well. Her Excellency believes in your potential and your future as well. So until you can believe it for yourself, borrow the belief of those around you and the teachers that are here to support you. And remember that one day you will be able to live this. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. Thank you all for your attention.
Thanks so much, Trudy. If anyone can meet Trudy and not smile, I just won't believe it. Every time I see her, I just can't help but have a big grin. Thank you, Trudy. I really, really appreciate what you said today. It is fantastic. I now invite Craig, Tiahni and Mark to come up and join Trudy on stage, which is going to have a panel discussion. Rightio. You four are pretty amazing people and fairly intelligent too, I might add. You've got together and you've come up with a time machine. And you've got the ability to go back in time. Now, some of you aren't going to go as far back in time as probably Mark will, but you go back in time and you have the ability to speak to yourself at 15 years of age. Trudy, what do you say to yourself?
It's hard going first. I have less time to think. 15 years old. So I was in year 11, high school. I had moved from 3 different primary schools and then 2 different high schools. So I was feeling quite isolated because in the school that I went to, most of them had actually been friends and been in the same school like since reception all the way up until year 12. And so then what I would say to myself at that age would be that to believe that every one of us belongs, and that there is connection that can be made through really simple things like smiling, like just being vulnerable and going up to someone and just trusting that you don't have to be or put on a mask to pretend that you're not who you are. And that's something that I've learned over time. But if I could tell myself that back when I was in high school doing year 11, that would have really helped me.
And did you know where your pathway was at 15?
Well, I knew that I wanted to help in the oral healthcare field because of my dad's tetracycline staining and that childhood experience. But I didn't really know whether I could do it. I still had a lot of self-limiting beliefs about whether I was smart enough to be able to get into dental school. And also, I didn't know that special needs dentistry even existed because back then, we didn't actually have a specialty called special needs dentistry. So it took people to actually pioneer that and make it an actual thing. But what I knew was that if I just continued to put my heart in the right place and follow that passion, that the path would become more and more clear. And so that's what would be my message to all of you, is to, even if you can see your dream, just don't think about the last step. Just think about the one small step that you can take that's right in front of you and trust that one day you will get there.
Fantastic. All right, Mark, you've met your 15-year-old who's staring out of the window somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what advice are you going to give?
Well, firstly, at 15, what I have to share is at 15, I would have been in year 10. And at that stage, I'd been in that same year 10 class with those same year 10 students from year 8, because we actually streamed kids. Do you know what that means back then? Yeah, in other words, the kids who did the aptitude tests and they were the smartest, they went in at the time to 8A. And then the next group of kids went in at 8B. You with me? 8C. G, H, I, J. I went in at 8J with a very small group of boys. We were the special ones. And we stayed together for 3 years in a special little classroom with the most amazing teacher that I will never forget, that actually normalised each of us. And so at 15, no, I wasn't looking ahead like Trudy. Seriously, I was enjoying Mr. Alfred, that teacher, because he was so cool. I was enjoying my friends. And even though we were difficult to engage because he was so engaging, I think he really learnt to love us. But as an adult thinking back on Mr. Alfred, I can only imagine what it was like when the principal or the deputy said to him, "Now, I've got this class for you." So, yes, just enjoying the moment. That's where I was at 15.
Fantastic. Tiahni?
I would tell myself to take the pressure off. Yeah. like I said before, life is a marathon, not a sprint. You have so much time. You have your whole life to figure it out. And I think if you asked almost any adult in their life if they think they know what they're doing, they will probably say no. We're all just doing our best and following the path that feels the right, in the right alignment with our values at the time. We're all just on this beautiful planet riding the wave. So I would say take the pressure off. Do your best for sure, like have a good crack, but you don't have to have it all figured out right now. I don't know what my 5-year plan is. I've got no idea, but I'm having a really good time living in alignment with my values, looking after my community and helping the environment. And I don't know what the next 5 years will look like. So have some fun is what I would tell my 15-year-old self.
Definitely. Thanks, Tiahni. Craig, you're a soccer superstar at 15. I'm sure you're going to say don't break your leg. That's the first bit of advice. What are you going to tell yourself?
I would say in the kind of 40 years since, the biggest lesson I think is just don't be concerned about what others think, or don't be fearful of trying new things and being your true self. Because people get to our age, and there's a very good saying that says the only things you regret are the things that you didn't do. We all make mistakes, and when you're young, you're very worried about how the peer group might think, what others might think, what it's going to look like, or whether you're capable of doing it. And the older you get, you just lose all that worry. And you get to the point where you're just really living life because you're just going as hard as you possibly can, and you're not as concerned of what society thinks about it. And so for all young people, like leaders, all the leaders in this room, I say, don't worry about it. Make mistakes and follow your passion, right? Because it's only you that holds you back. It's actually not other people. Don't ever give anyone else the right to limit what you are capable of doing. Only you should ever have that responsibility for yourself.
Thank you. The older you get, the more people you come across who inspire you. I was very lucky to have a person by the name of Bob Carney. He was an ex-Vietnam vet. He taught me many, many life skills. Do you have someone when you were growing up who inspired you? And if so, how? Well, let's start with Mark.
So do remember, I took a long time to get to a place that I thought I was okay and good enough. I got a teaching degree. I had my first teaching appointment, and there were these 3 women teachers that knew I had no idea what I was doing, and they took me under their wing, and they were my mentors for the first 3 years while I was at that school. And little did I know that everything that I've done since then was based on the way they thought about kids, the way in which they were child-centred, and everything in teaching worked around those kids first. I am so grateful to those women.
Fantastic, thank you. Craig, someone who inspired you?
You know what? I don't tend to follow people. I don't. You know, I'm inspired by people living their best life and doing things that I think's unbelievable. There's a lot of things I don't understand, and so I see people in science and academia and you know, professors and things, and I always think, wow, it's incredible. Like these 3 here, it's amazing what you guys are doing. But I think, you know, I don't think you necessarily need to pick people and say, look, I just want to live like them or be like them, because you are unique, right? The thing is to look after yourself, decide what you want to do in life, and just realise that if you want to really be the best you can possibly be, it's going to take bloody hard work as well, right? And it's hard. It's hard to get there. But you know what? The harder it is, the greater the reward. Because when things are given to us easy in life, you'll come to understand they just don't mean the same amount. Don't mean. If you fought for something and challenged yourself and gone all the way and you achieve it, you're going to take that right throughout your life. You're going to be so incredibly proud of yourself. So look inside as to what it is you want to do, and then look for people outside for confidence that this is what is capable of being achieved, but always know that you can do the same thing and you can go even further.
Thanks, Craig. Tiahni?
I am really inspired by healthy country, by the land, by knowing pristine waterways and what that looks like, and having the privilege of growing up in environments that are really untouched. by modern Western civilization, and being able to see that inspires me massively. But the people that inspire me are always people who have broke down barriers and crushed stereotypes and made things differently, who have changed the way that society is, where maybe they didn't have accessibility to something before, but they've gone, nah, I'm coming in and you're going to have me here and I'm going to make waves. That's far more admirable to me than someone who's been handed everything and given that opportunity, is people who go, nah, I'm making waves here, I'm going to be a part of this. Lots of my idols? Yeah, we'll go with idols. Are like single mums and people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, from people with cultural diversity, with people who have experienced real hardship from a young age and decided to stand up and get up and wake up day after day and do things in alignment with their values to make the world a better place, to get outside of their own lives and go, I know that I've had all this stuff going on, but I'm still going to try and make Australia or make the world a better place. They're the people that I go, wow, how the hell have you done that? You're amazing.
Well done, Tiahni. Trudy?
So the person that inspired me the most, and still does, is my grandmother, who, as you know, she was a big influence into me becoming a specialist in special needs dentistry. But one of the things that she taught me from a young age, and it's always stayed with me, is that she was the strongest person that I knew. She went through a lot of hardships. She was a refugee from Vietnam and fled during the Vietnam War. And she, being the strongest person I knew, she taught me that strength doesn't come from what you do, it comes from overcoming what you once thought you couldn't. And so I really tried to live by that mantra to try and overcome any self-doubt or self-limiting beliefs about whether I can do something. It's more a focus on just trying to improve and make progress. And then one day looking back and going, well, I was able to do something I didn't think I could. And to give like a tangible example, one of the things that I never thought I could do was like be a runner, because in primary school when people did cross country, I was terrible. As you can tell, I'm pretty short. And so having short legs, I was just like, nah, I'm just never going to be a runner. And then midway through my specialist training, some of the patients I was looking after were undergoing chemotherapy. And one of the side effects is that they become bald, they lose all their hair. And I was inspired to then try to raise money for some of my patients that were going through that struggle. And I decided that I wanted to run an ultra marathon to raise money for my cancer patients. So in 2019, I ran a 105-kilometre ultra marathon on the Hyson Trail.
Jeez.
And, you know, Trudy from way back then in primary school would have never thought that I could ever even run 5Ks, let alone 105. And so just think, if I can do it, you guys can do it too.
Thanks, Trudy. All right, look, thank you very much, panel. Stay there. I'd like to now welcome Jan Chorley, our CEO of the Australia Day Council of South Australia, to the stage to give us some insight into the significance of the day. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you so much, Craig. I think so much has been said today that has been incredibly special. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the ancestral lands of the Kaurna people, but to think that we've been able to unfold the kind of conversation that we've had today on these ancestral lands in such a profound way. Every single speaker has touched me. In fact, I've heard them speak twice now today. And I think what I will be doing is just taking away the juices, the essence, the power, the significance of what they've shared, both in parts of their stories, but also their work and their vocational and their deep passion and commitment to life and community. I'm going to reflect on that hard and deep and hope I'll integrate more of what they had to say into my own life. I think for each of us here today, it's a chance for you to go away and have a think about what you've heard and what it means to you, what you want to keep, hold on, amplify, take further into your own lives. And we'll really look forward to hearing your own reflections of how you've experienced this wonderful session. So on your behalf, I'd like to thank your principal, our principal today, our deputy principal, our teachers, and most importantly, all of you, you wonderful young people that we so believe in. There are so many people here today who have come, who've flown in from Sydney, who've come from different places to be here because they believe in each and every one of you, as has so beautifully been communicated. I'd like to thank, so please on your behalf, can we thank Craig, Tiahni, Mark and Trudy? Can we give them a big hand? I'd also like to thank Craig. Craig Scott, come up here. Craig actually has organised the Student Summit from beginning to today, as well as being our MC. I want to thank you deeply on behalf of our team, on behalf of all of the young people and our speakers. Craig, thanks for bringing us together in such a meaningful and powerful conversation. We're very grateful. Well done. Thank you. And just lastly, who are we? We are the Australia Day Council of South Australia. We help to find amazing Australians and South Australians to become acknowledged, to amplify their work, so people here on the stage. But that only comes because people like you go out and say, let's nominate someone that we really believe in, we think is doing a fantastic job and making a difference in our world. So there are many of our team here today that help to do that work, to help find nominations, but they've also helped to make today happen. So can you also thank members of our team who are also here with us today, who've done all the work? Thank you. So lastly, speaking personally, but I went to Woodville High School. I can tell you in my whole schooling, I was in that bottom class too, Mark, for different reasons. I never heard an inspiring speaker in my whole years of education. Today's been precious, but you're precious. Really look forward to getting your feedback about what has resonated for you, and most importantly, how you grasp life with every bit of your being and go into the world and make a difference. Congratulations, it's been wonderful to be with you. Thank you.